Good morning, everyone. We should get started. I will attempt to keep this microphone in front of my mouth so everyone can hear. So welcome to the last presentation of the morning, being Strategic Healthy Aging in the Context of the Fine Art of Aging. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to introduce my colleague, Dr. Hector Baillie, an internist in British Columbia for almost 40 years now, Hector. And I worked with Hector for 15 years in Mission and got to know Hector as an outstanding clinician, teacher, and he's moved on to become a wonderful author and publishes frequently in the Medical Post as he helps improve the standard of care across the country. So we're really privileged to have Hector here and his expansive knowledge regarding aging, if you like, and what's associated with it. And there's Hector's picture. The ugly guy in the green shirt on the side there is me, and who's standing there is my best friend's father, Gord Cowley, sadly, who passed away in February of this year. This picture was taken on Gord's 101st birthday, approaching well, actually, he was approaching 102. So I met him at Ambleside after he was doing his 3K walk for the day. And so he knew me right away. He had still 52 cards in this deck. And it kind of motivated me to think about, well, what can we do to talk about why is Gord the poster boy for aging? So they did a study back in the late 90s. And what they noticed in the States is that when you start to look at the demographics of aging, okay, the other way, okay, okay, good. So the demographics of aging, they looked at the most rapidly growing were people over the age of 100. And they looked at 5 common themes that they seemed to exhibit in that cohort. And what they found was most important was family history as a determinant. These are all important, but non-smoking was the next most important determinant. Leanness, psycho-spiritual health, and exercise in that order. As I say, they're all important. So this morning, what we're going to do is touch on all of those areas and provide you with some value-added information as well regarding strategic healthy aging. So as we age, we look at, go ahead, Hector.
Thank you. Okay. In June 1975, I was a mathematics student. And I took a drive on the 6th of June, 1975, down to see my aunt in the Kintyre Peninsula of Scotland. And when I got there, I got a phone call. Your dad's died. But they said he had a good life. He was 64. 64. So nowadays, 64 is young, right? By any definition. So I changed, I think, from mathematics and became a doctor. And my wife still wonders. I'm going to show you my prescription pad before I get into the lecture. It's got 4 things written on it, D, D, E, and J. Top line, diet and exercise. The bottom line, drugs and a joke. Why is there a joke on my prescription pad? Laughter is the best medicine. And it's actually true. What bird do you find on a building site? A crane. Sure, right. Okay. So I'm going to talk on some aspects of cardiovascular health, not too scientific. If I get bogged down, just say hurry up and I'll hurry up. Oh, here we go. Some things age well. Good wine. This guy. Lovely racing green Bentley, 1938. Some things not so well. These aren't smile lines, by the way. These are wrinkles. and smoking didn't help her. But sometimes you find out that that 1938 Bentley hasn't aged well. It needs new suspension, new headlights, new spark plugs. Some people just drink like a fish. I want to show you a demographic. There's a wonderful thing on the internet where you can actually look back over the years at the population of Canada. Young people, boys and girls, up to the age of about 18. And then the rest of the working population that we call working population. And then the old folks like us, because I'm a senior trying to retire. Although I'm headed up to Prince Rupert next week because they don't have enough doctors all there. Anyway, that's the 2000. It's not very long ago. 2040, not far away in the future. What started out looking like a Christmas tree looks more like a cupcake now because we've got a lot more older people hanging around. And this red line shows the number of centenarians, people over 100. It's going to be significant. And we have to prepare for that. I want somebody to tell me in the audience, who decided that quantity was all that mattered? I want to find that guy and break his neck. Because quality matters. I've got an equation, E equals mq squared. I'll be famous with it. Enjoyment of life is a function of M medicine, Q quantity, and Q quality. Now we have to get quality back into life. Otherwise, if you're not having fun, who wants to be sitting at home looking at the wall? So we've got a population issue. We're going to go from 30 million people to 43 million people in the not too distant future, depending on our immigration laws. And we have to prepare well, and we have to have fun. Oh, Matt, I think I should be handing over to you soon. He's going to talk about family history, one of the things that he'll tell you we can't do much about.
And you really can't. You really cannot pick your parents, right? But your genetic stamp can tell you a lot, okay? And particularly as it relates to certain cancers, colon, breast, certain other disorders such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease. So family history is important. It's important to know what came before you as a first degree relative, what happened to your parents, and to a lesser extent, your grandparents, and also to your siblings as well as your children. So very important, but it's important to have that history to relay on to your primary care provider.
And my family history was good because my dad, when he found me smoking a cigarette butt behind the bicycle sheds, whopped me in the back of the head and said, "Don't do that." And he was right. He didn't know why. Well, I'm going to tell you a little about smoking. Smoking, hold on. Smoking's important. Here we are. This guy. If you haven't, yes, Walter Raleigh, some well-educated guy in the front row here, Walter Raleigh. So, in July 1586, he gets a phone call from his public relations manager, and he says, "Hey, Walt, yeah, I just thought I'd phone you to see how you're doing. Where are you? The Carolinas, eh? No, Virginia. Virginia, that's a long way away from London. How you doing? You found a new product to bring back to Britain. What is it? Leaves. Tell you something, Walt, we've got leaves in Britain. We don't need leaves. Oh, the special leaves. What's special about the leaves? You roast them. Okay. All right, so what do you do with them? You put them in a piece of paper. You roll it up. What do you do then? You put it in your mouth. And then what do you set it on fire. My God. Nowadays, it wouldn't fly. But in 1586, Sir Walter Raleigh brought tobacco to Europe. We've been paying the price ever since. 1955. First medical reports linking smoking to cancer of the lung. 1960. U.S. Surgeon General says, guys shouldn't be smoking. Bad for your heart as well, you know. Secondhand smoking is discovered. You start to stop smoking, find other ways of having fun. Nicotine patches didn't make a big bit of difference, but taking the advertising out of the sales of the tobacco giants did. Oh my gosh. 20% of Canadians die a death that's related in some way to smoking. That's a lot of people. Have we gotten rid of smoking? Nobody here smoking at the moment? Good. 15.8% of BC people still smoke. Nearly 20% of Canadians still smoke. Well, I haven't seen people smoking very much lately, but they do it surreptitiously outside. Here are the people to blame: Imperial Tobacco, Rothmans, JTI McDonald. They're making money hand over fist. Why are they making money? Because they're targeting young people. They're targeting Asia. 46,000 Canadians die each year from smoking. So let's suppose we have an airplane crash every second day. Well, it'd be quite an uproar, don't you think? We don't have an uproar about people dying of pneumonia from smokers' lungs, or heart attack, or stroke, or lung cancer, or breast cancer. Costs a lot of money, 16.2 billion. So we sued the guys. We sued them for only 32.5 billion, which is like saying to Elon Musk, I'm going to give you a parking ticket. It's not going to get you very far, because they make a lot more than that. They make billions of dollars around the world, but we got a wee bit of money from them to help start the process of accountability. Particularly women. Women don't realize that their breast cancer is due to smoking. If you want to know more about smoking, we're very limited in time. Action on Smoking and Health, ash.ca is where you go. Ash. Matt.
Right. Leanness, number 3 in the list after smoking. Leanness is self-explanatory, right? Doesn't mean you have to be skinny, but you just have to be at an ideal body weight. Okay. And so how do we get there? I think it's just with moderation and having a well-balanced diet. The only supplement as we age that we should really think about taking is vitamin D, 400 international units a day. My bias in practice as a family doctor, I always would like to know the number of an individual's B12, because that can have some significant impact on cognition as well as nerve function. So that is something I would routinely do, but that might be another supplement that you might require. But if staying at an ideal body weight, it's easier on your joints. It helps your blood pressure. It helps reduce your back pain. It improves your blood sugar. It just makes sense. So again, it's something to strive for. But Hector, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know what that means? This is the son of a Scottish distiller from the island of Islay. Okay, so this is actually a very thorny point for us in primary care over the last couple of years, because a meal without wine is like a day without sunshine. And not that we eat 3 meals a day, but Hector, what should we know about alcohol?
So my father was the manager of Bowmore Distillery on Islay, and I was baptized with Scotch pure. And he became the CEO of Chivas. And Chivas is owned by Canadians. Bronfman's owned Seagram's owned Chivas. And he would fly to Canada and bring back Canadian artifacts. I thought, that's a pretty cute country, this. I think I'll emigrate there. So I know all about Scotch, but we didn't know it was a cancer agent till recently. We used to say to the men in our practice, hey, you're allowed 14 alcoholic beverages a week. And women 9, because you're a bit smaller, a smaller liver. Or maybe it's prejudice, I don't know. And then we find out it causes, oh, God, that's bad. So why would it cause breast cancer? Oops. Here's why. When you go to court, the lawyer here, go to court. What is alcohol? Colorless, odorless. Liquid that is clear to look through. Well, that's not what we drink. Bourbon's got color and aroma, and it tastes different from water. It's got these things in it as well. 2-methyl-3,2-dimethyl sulfonyl furan. Try to go into a pharmacy and order some of that stuff. It's got aldehydes and ketones and esters that give it its character. Well, wait a minute, I just bought it for the alcohol. That's what gives me the buzz. It's a sedative, which the government make money from. But it's not just alcohol you're drinking when you drink Jack Daniels. You're drinking the aldehydes, the esters, and the ketones. And we're not made to process those. We do have enzymes called alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase, which can take the first glass and maybe the second glass, and after that it gives up. The way you go up to the brain, do something to the liver, we don't care. I'm dealing with the second glass right now. This is too much for me. So I drink alcohol. For gosh sakes, I'm Scottish. I kind of know it. But I just drink on Sunday night when I play bridge and my bidding goes to hell. And my wife says, for gosh sakes. So I researched something about alcohol. This guy, Frederick Rusch, in 1701 or something, was a Dutch guy. And he said, how do we get dead bodies home from the battlefield so we can bury them with dignity? Because they go off. And also, as an anatomist, I'd like to preserve corpses so they can be dissected by my students next year. And they smell terrible. So he researched different liquors. He got liquor balsamicum as the best one he could find. Unfortunately, it was made with mercury sulfide, which is highly toxic mercury. But it gave people rosy cheeks, and they thought, oh, it's pretty good. And Peter the Great thought his collection of preserved specimens was super. So he paid him 30,000 guilders to get his collection of anatomical specimens. This is a pub in Bangkok. No kidding. It's called the Pickled Liver. So wee Johnny, your grandson, goes out into the fields and he finds this sort of lizard-like salamander and he says, I want to show my biology teacher tomorrow. So what do you bring it home for? He says, well, tomorrow we can show it to her in biology class. So you say, well, I haven't got any formalin or formaldehyde or, oh, I've got some vodka. So you put him in a wee jar of vodka and put him on a shelf. And guess what? Tomorrow, the next day, it's a pro-D day. And the next day is a holiday. And you forget about it. A year later, you find this lizard in the vodka. And say, Johnny, take this into your biology teacher. And it looks just as good as the day it went in. Why? It's pickled. So what does alcohol do to the human body in excess? Pickles. And the liver, being the first site of absorption, gets the biggest hit. And if you have a fatty liver, which is becoming common nowadays, you have a fatty liver and you pickle it as well, you get cirrhosis, which means big trouble. So the bad news is have fun, everybody. But you're going to have to find a different fun agent. Oh, we had the pandemic. What was not restricted in the pandemic? Alcohol. Yeah, let's put it on the shelves of groceries now. Never mind liquor marts, put it on grocery shelves. Everybody had their free anxiety drug. Hey, let's get drunk and we'll get through this epidemic. 18% death. This is from the Toronto Times columnist. It must be true. It's in the Life column, funnily enough. Okay. I'm going to shift gears slightly because I can't talk about alcohol much longer. I've only got 2 minutes. Huge topic here. Social prescribing for the loneliness epidemic. This would take a day to talk about. I'm only going to read the first paragraph. Non-medical causes of disease include poverty, lack of employment and housing, uncertainty, thanks Donald, and reduced access to care. These are major causes of disease. Now I'm looking at the lady across the street here. She's widowed because she's 74. Her kids live in Sudbury and the south of France. Her dog is more of a burden than a help. She can't drive because she's got bad cataracts. And she hasn't got many friends. And this social prescribing tsunami is to try and help people in the loneliness epidemic. The loneliness epidemic is terrible. It takes the quality away from quantity. Who wants to live another 10 years looking at four walls and the paint dry? None of us. So this is a huge topic, and I just can't go over it with any justice. But there are people thinking about it now. If our population's average age is 72 or 78, or if we're living to 84, what can we put back in? Loneliness. It's also associated with physical disease. You're more likely to get heart disease, dementia, high blood pressure, and suicide. Oh, wait a minute. Can we help that? We have community centers now. We have outreach programs. You can be driven to a bowling club, into an exercise class. You can learn pottery. You can go into a book club. Who else is actually at risk of loneliness? Why? Well, they didn't learn how to make friends. They've got their phone in their pocket. They make friends online. They don't go to a book club and go for a party somewhere or invite you around to. No, there's a lot of lonely youth. But what I'm talking about is you guys. If you feel lonely and isolated, we have to reach out and give you back quality. Here's this girl here, Minister Tracy Crouch. She's Britain's Minister of Loneliness. Oh. Well, first of all, you're acknowledging it, and you're doing something about it. We have to start asking the question, what matters to you in your life from here on in? I'll tell you, it happens to 12% of our community over this arbitrary age, which we should now debunk, 65. I'm a senior. Great. Fine, I'm a senior though. Okay. What's the cure? Anybody, one word. Yeah, she's read this before. Connection, connection, connection. Did you come to my last talk? Connection, connection, connection. Make connections with anybody, anything. Do not be isolated. And you might get through the loneliness epidemic. Connections, I met this lovely lady, Julia Hotz, when she came to Nanaimo last week. She talked about her book. I'm just going to read a few extracts from her book and the one on belonging by Kim Samuel. To an introvert, belonging might mean being loved and cherished by one person. To a monk, it might mean being rooted in a community. To a hermit, it might be in a cell. And to an extrovert, it might be liked by 2,000 people on a Facebook page. So connection is different for different people. A great deal of pathologic drug use is driven by unmet social needs, being alienated. And think about it for a minute. How the hell would you take drugs if you were happy? You take it because you're unhappy. Well, wait a minute. Why don't we fix the drug epidemic by connecting people with the right people? There's two more quotes I've got to give you. If you find the typos, well done. Yeah, you haven't fallen asleep. Great. This is not a simple matter of young people no longer communicating as in the past. Around the world, adults too are subject to the seductive powers of individualizing technology, the internet, smartphone. Although the adult psyche may be less vulnerable than the adolescent, the trends are inexorable. It is more difficult to host a block party, join a book club, or simply invite friends over for dinner when there's so much electronic competition. And I thought to myself, oh, my daughter makes friends online. Tinder. What the hell is Tinder? Did any of you guys go to Tinder? I didn't get to go to Tinder. I had to pay somebody to take them out for a meal or something. Lastly, one of the quotes from Kim Samuel's book, there is a risk in modern cities of ghettoization. That's a great word, eh? Not a Scrabble word is a lot of points. Ghettoization, not only for the people, for the poor, but for everyone. In separate people's living areas from one to another, each group gets shut out as much as kept in. So we're putting people into ghettos. instead of putting them into families. Families are what the human animal needs. A risk of purpose, a need for purpose and a need for family connection. And this sort of community center, it's called community center for a reason. It gets us back to our roots. Purpose, connection. Exercise.
Next slide. Okay, Hector, next slide. Okay. So the message is also with when we have happy hours now to serve mocktails and 0% beer. Corona is not too bad. This is a little tip there. But the fourth item that we want to talk about is the fine art of exercise. And I'm going to give you a mantra to listen to, or to think about. One is motion is lotion, movement is medicine, and if you don't use it, you lose it, okay? So when we talk about motion is lotion, what we're talking about is exercise is important for chronic pain. When we look at movement is medicine, exercise is important to bring down your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your weight, and that sort of thing. And if you don't move it and exercise, you become what we call a deconditioning syndrome victim, if you like. And when we talk about exercise, what we're talking about is stamina, strength, balance, and flexibility. And so why that's important, I'm just going to touch on fall prevention, because falls in seniors it's a serious problem. You can, over the age of 65, 50% of seniors will in fact fall in a calendar year, and many will fall more than once. The thing that we worry about not only are things like hip fractures and fractured wrists and that sort of thing. If you have a hip fracture, if you're a woman, there's about a 20% chance you won't survive, and a man, about 30%. But what I would like to really address is the issue of traumatic brain injury, okay? If you have a mild to moderate traumatic brain injury, that if you are predisposed to dementia, Alzheimer's disease, you'll accelerate the onset by anywhere from 2 to 8 years. So it is really, really important to exercise, to improve your balance, your strength, flexibility, to avoid falling. Falls are very, very dangerous. So I'd like you to remember this mantra. There will be a test later. Motion is lotion, movement is medicine, and if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay?
Thank you, Matt.
Good.
I have a dog, takes me for a walk 4 times a day. And if it wasn't for the dog, I wouldn't walk 4 times a day. And I'd lose it. So thank you for reminding me that dogs are good. Get out there and do something. Okay, here's a quiz. Real quick. Who is this guy? You've never heard of him, probably. I'll give you his name as a clue. Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner has saved 530 million lives. I think he ought to get some respect for that. Why did he save 530 million lives? He was an ornithologist who studied cuckoos. That was his claim to fame. He got famous because he found out that the cuckoo chick throws the other eggs out of the nest. So the Royal Society of Britain said, "Oh, smart guy, we'll give you the fellowship of the Royal Society." Okay. And then he found out when he was looking at some milkmaids that they had a beautiful complexion. Now, in his day, in the early 1800s, people didn't have a nice complexion. They were pockmarked badly. In fact, a third of humanity has been killed by a virus called smallpox. And we don't even think about smallpox. Who here thinks about smallpox from day to day? Nobody. Well, the milkmaids were milking the udders of cows, and they got these sores from the udders called cowpox. Well, that's just a mild day 2, 3 fever, a wee scab in your hand, but it prevented getting smallpox, which if it didn't kill you, by the way, often blinded you. So we've all heard of smallpox. The virus has been eradicated, the first and only virus, and completely eradicated from the planet Earth. What an achievement. But there were the anti-vaccine crowd who didn't like what this is in 1802. McGilvery drew this picture of cow parts growing out of you because you've been vaccinated. So the anti-vaccine squad were alive and kicking long ago. For you in the audience who are taking notes, get your flu shot updated, why it changes every so often. When was the worst recent mega pandemic? Flu, 1918 to 1920. It's called the Spanish flu, killed more people than the world wars put together. 11 million people died of Spanish flu, influenza A, and it was covered up. Why was it covered up? Well, you just got back from World War I. Who's going to start talking about dying from the flu? They died in droves. It changes every so often. So please get your flu shot. COVID, I'm not going to talk about COVID. You know about it, for goodness sake. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Shingles. Yeah, but it's not universally covered. It's not paid. So you have to shell out money for shingles. When you get a shingles rash, you know about it. Let me tell you, you know about it. It's extremely painful, and occasionally the pain is lifelong. Is it worth getting? If you can afford to get the vaccine, for Pete's sake, get the vaccine. And pneumonia, you can actually prevent the commonest germ in our lungs from getting a grasp of you. So let's suppose you're a smoker and you cough and you splutter and you wheeze. What's the germ that's going to come along? Pneumococcus. How do you prevent it getting a hold? Pneumovax or something similar. I got DPT, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, got, didn't get HPV because I wasn't around in my day. I went to Africa, so I got yellow fever vaccine. Got lots of vaccines, cholera, typhoid, paratyphoid. I got everything. I even got rubella. I got everything. Nothing's going to get me. But it's a virus. No, thank you. How do we do with vaccination, by the way, for COVID? These are different vaccine strategies. Most people have had DBT, diphtheria, pertussis. By the way, it was not romantic to live in 1920 or 1870. Nothing romantic about living then. You had tuberculosis and you died of a cut finger when you're 26. Nothing romantic about the old days. So we all got DPT. A long time ago, we realized childhood illnesses, nobody dies of whooping cough. Some people are dying of measles. Oh my gosh, because they didn't get vaccinated. And from the point of view of COVID, we're about 85% covered here. Is it a dangerous vaccine? Oh my gosh, no. Last thing I'm going to say is misinformation. Why are you listening to me? Can you believe me? So peer-reviewed journals have got fairly high approval rating. I trust most peer-reviewed journals like the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the New England Journal of Medicine. They do very rigorous research. They don't talk about putting light bulbs up your bum and taking Tide tablets. They're talking about real research. That's critical thinking is at the basis of good evidence. And if you don't believe Matt and I or any else other speakers, please go to a site that's reliable, not to another internet source that's being funded by industry or political misadventure. I won't tell you his name. You all know it. Social media posts, and they'll tell you anything to sell ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine because somebody's making money out of it. And if you die as a result, they're not there to be at your funeral. So there's lots of questions. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to ask you for questions and answers, and Matt will moderate that.
Any questions?